Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the York County SPCA. My name is Stephen Martinez, and I am the Executive Director here. And I'm very excited to be surrounded by all of you today because you're in good company, because we all care about animal cruelty and creating laws that help us enforce animal cruelty. So thank you all for being here today. And I also wanted to welcome Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill for being here. Former Secretary Rory Afflerbach. We have Kristen Tullo from the Humane Society of the United States, Grace Kelly Herbert, Finding Shelter Animals Rescues. We have leaders from a Tell-to-Tell Puppy Mill, and also we have Carolyn Warman, who's the board president of the York County SPCA. So we're all in very good company here. So since 1926, the York County SPCA has been working really hard on finding loving permanent homes for stray and displaced animals. We educate the general public about animal wellness and safety. We control the pet population growth rates. In fact, last year we spayed and neutered over 8,200 animals. So we're really doing our job in controlling the pet population growth rates. And of course, we investigate and prosecute animal cruelty offenders. So last year, in 2020, we conducted over 600 animal welfare checks. We investigated over 165 cases of animal cruelty and neglect just here in York County. And of those 165 cases that we investigated, we pressed charges on 100 of those individuals. And last year, we won over 30 animal cruelty convictions. So animal cruelty is very important to us. The work is very important to us here. So from our perspective, there is a very important distinction between what animal cruelty laws that we can enforce versus what we believe to be appropriate animal care. So there's an important distinction between the two. So for us, it can be very frustrating to my team when we learn about pets whose living conditions many would consider to be highly inappropriate. And yet Pennsylvania animal cruelty law doesn't always give us the permission that we need to go in and rescue those animals, which is why our partnerships and our advocacy efforts are so important to us, such as Victoria's Law. So Victoria's Law will strengthen Pennsylvania dog law and animal welfare legislation, which is why we're excited to be here. And so they're going to talk more about Victoria's Law, but I just wanted to provide the shelter perspective on this law. So it does a lot of things. The main one is that it addresses the puppy mill to pet store pipeline, which helps people be informed consumers, and I know that they'll talk more about that. But the other part of the law that we're excited about is the transparency aspect of it. So it helps folks make more informed decisions, but from our perspective, requiring identifying information in advertisements will also give law enforcement officers like us, our Humane Society police officers, an opportunity to identify unlicensed breeders and it also offers extra incentive for breeders to comply with the law. In other words, it helps us be more efficient with our animal cruelty investigation, so we can distinguish between breeders who may not be necessarily ethical versus those who are doing it right. So we're very excited about that. So I want to thank Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill, Kristen Tullo, Grace Kelly Herbert, and others for their leadership in establishing Victoria's Law, which gives animal welfare enforcement professionals like us a very useful tool that will help us better conduct our animal cruelty work. And so with that, I'd like to hand it off to Senator Phillips-Hill, who will continue with her remarks. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, for the very kind introduction, and for you, Carolyn, your team here at the SPCA, and of course, the star of today, Mick Fleury, who, by the way, is available for adoption. So we are so grateful to have you host us as we unveil this important piece of legislation. And it is an honor to sponsor Senate Bill 234, which is known as Victoria's Law. And this is bipartisan and bicameral legislation. It is named in honor of Victoria, who was a beautiful German Shepherd who I had the wonderful privilege of meeting last session. And you're going to hear her story from Grace in a few minutes. But these last 11 months, they have been incredibly challenging for many in our community. And many families have adopted new pets as a way to deal with the challenging circumstances. We know a new family member by way of a cat or a dog can brighten anyone's day. And so whether you are a cat person or a dog person, A new pet can dramatically improve our lives. I have 2 cats, Finn and Dabo. My staff are all animal lovers. The dogs actually outnumber the cats in our staff. But these pets, they bring us great joy and happiness. And oftentimes, these animals truly become members of our family. They wind up in our Christmas cards. We share them on social media. Some of our pets even have their own Instagram accounts. But that joy and happiness also brings responsibility. And kittens and puppies, they like to explore, and those little adventures around our homes can turn a little destructive at times. We had conversations about a $1,600 sofa, carpeting, the bottom shelf of a pantry, and they often require fences and active owners to keep up with their pace. And when pets get sick, you take them to the veterinarian. And as pet owners, it's part of the responsibility of taking on a new cat, dog, rabbit. It's not cheap by any means, and it's a commitment that should not be taken lightly. But what we have seen is that there are breeders out there who exist to do one thing and one thing only, and that is make money off of unknowing customers. And I want to make one very clear distinction today. Not all breeders operate in humane puppy mills. In fact, quite the contrary. The vast majority of breeders operate humane breeding practices. Victoria's law's purpose is to end the inhumane practice of puppy mills operated by a few here in Pennsylvania. Unknowing families purchase what they think is their newest family member, that dog or that cat, and oftentimes these animals carry hereditary diseases that lead to high veterinarian costs, pain, suffering, and death. And as these vet visits add up, a lot of families, they can't afford to care for their sick pets. And those pets, as we were painfully made aware of today, find their way to shelters. And unfortunately, there are pets that at times cannot sustain their illnesses.
Well, thank you so much, Senator. And I was just thinking that with Valentine's this past Sunday, how special it is that we've been able to share this week with those we love, our pets. And to be here with adoptable pets that are looking to find that special family, this is a great time to remind everybody that, adopting from your local shelter and rescue is the way to go. And another thing that we've learned today at the York SPCA, and we wanted to thank Stephen and his team for hosting today's event to promote this legislation. And as the senator just mentioned, this is an amazing bill that is going to do 3 things. So the first thing it will do is move the pet market towards humane sources like shelters, rescues, and responsible breeders. Responsible breeders. Second thing, it will stop the sale of puppy mill dogs, cats, and rabbits in Pennsylvania pet stores. And what's really important about this is that Americans spent $100 billion on the pet store industry just last year alone, which all of that was mostly products and services, not pet sales. So it really demonstrates that commerce with a conscience is proving profitable. And the third thing is it's a consumer protection, as the senator has mentioned, that consumer protection, because this bill will require transparency by requiring anyone that's selling a pet to advertise their license number, their name and address, which enhances consumer protections. So those are the 3 things that this will do, and then there are 4 ways that people can help to move Victoria's law forward. The first is to educate to not buy pets from pet stores and to work with your local shelter and rescue to adopt. The second, if you or someone you know has experienced a sick or misrepresented pet or a problem with a purchase from a pet store, report that to the Office of the Attorney General in Pennsylvania and to the Humane Society of the United States Pet Scams Tip Line. And then the third thing that you can do is get involved with your municipality to encourage they enact a local ordinance that would stop the sale of puppy mill dogs in pet stores. This legislation codifies into law ordinances in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and we would love to see more of that in the state as a way to help move this legislation forward. And then finally, the last thing that we can do is contact your state senator and ask them to support Senator Kristin Phillips-Hill and Lisa Boscola's legislation with the additional 27 co-sponsors. And now I get to hand it over to a friend and colleague of mine and a very special story of Victoria, which the bill is the namesake of the bill. And so Grace, bring Grace and Pippa up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, and Stephen and everyone here from the SPCA. Thank you for welcoming us. I appreciate this so much that Senator Phillips-Hill and Senator Boscola have taken leadership on this bill. People call me Grace, but they also more commonly know me as Victoria's mom. So I was fortunate enough to be the one to rescue her from the farm and foster her and adopt her and be with her until the very end of her days. And people give me a lot of credit for rescuing her, but I can't take total credit. My friend Denise got the call and she said, Grace, do you have room for a cockapoo? And so Pippa is the real hero in saving Victoria because she and Victoria were saved from the same farm on the same day, and had Pippa not be deemed unproductive and useless at the puppy mill because she had been breeding like Victoria for 10 years, we never would have gotten Victoria. They were on the fence about giving Victoria up, even though she was having mobility issues from her degenerative myelopathy, which is an incurable disease that is genetic, that she passed down to over 150 estimated puppies. Pippa also bred for 10 years. She had a confirmed 18 litters in 10 years. And when she was given up to us, she was, her mouth was totally infected. She had to have a dental. She was extremely obese. And part of that obesity, she surprised us with 3 little puppies. So joke's on them, because we got 3 beautiful puppies who started off from the very beginning of their lives, very, very healthy and happy. But Pippa also, her story is like Victoria's. So through her life, she has developed mammary tumors from not being spayed for so long. She was fearful and she was growly and she was a little bit aggressive the day that we got her, just like Victoria. But I remember 2 years ago when we brought Victoria on one of her 2 visits to the Capitol. She had a beautiful moment with Senator Phillips-Hill where the 2 of them looked at each other and they immediately became friends. And Victoria had so much forgiveness in her, as most dogs do. And I think about the day that I drove down that driveway and I saw Pippa in a crate where she could barely turn around, and Victoria, who was 90 pounds, was in a crate next to her that was the exact same size as Pippa's. It took taking the top of that crate off in order to get her out. She was so cramped. She lived in a cage for 10 years. She bred over 150 puppies at every single heat cycle. And the time that she was able to be free was not long enough. So she's described as living out her natural life. There's nothing natural about a dog living for 10 years in a cage. It's not fair, and it's unfair to the people who purchased her puppies to have purchased animals who could potentially wind up developing the disease that she had. So Victoria and Pippa, sadly, are not unique stories. They are very common in puppy mills across Pennsylvania, but also in puppy mills outside of Pennsylvania, in Missouri and Iowa and Kansas and Indiana, all these states that are sending dogs into pet stores all across the Commonwealth. So next week is 2 years since Victoria passed away, and in the very last moments of her life, we promised her one final time that we would pass this, and we need your help to do that. We are so thankful to Senator Phillips-Hill, Senator Boscola, and the 27 co-sponsors who have stepped forward and said that they will no longer accept animal cruelty through pet store sales. I hope that everybody across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will see this as a step forward and will join me and help me to keep my promise to Victoria. Thank you.
Is everyone cold enough yet? Well, we're not going to keep you much longer. We appreciate you taking the time to arrive. We especially appreciate, I specifically especially appreciate Senator Phillips-Hill for being the prime sponsor of this legislation, because I happen to live in the district that she represents. And Senator Boscola in the Lehigh Valley happens to now represent a portion of the district that I previously represented in the state Senate. So I can tell you we have two great sponsors. I can also tell you that when I first came to the Senate as a staff member in 1970, and to just save you the quick math, that's 51 years ago, no one in the Senate wanted to talk about doing anything for dogs or cats. It has changed, ladies and gentlemen, and it's changed because of the types of stories that you have heard from Grace and Pippa and about Victoria, and from Kristen, and all the hard work that HSUS and the SPCA have done. And let me leave you with this thought. If you've seen the tour of this particular facility, you can see that the animals who were brought here because no one else wanted them have been well cared for, well treated, have begun to understand that not all humans are mean brutes, and they are excellent for adoption. They've been checked by a veterinarian. You know that you're getting what you're getting when you pick up an animal here, because it's been well cared for and well checked. You do not know that by buying an animal in a so-called pet store. As has been explained, the puppy mill folks really don't care what condition that animal's in, as long as it can move and look like it's reasonably healthy. And people find out all too late. And in fact, that's why the legislature a few years ago passed the puppy lemon law, because people find out all too late that the animal they thought was healthy was in fact not healthy. Not everything is evident upon view. So we thank you for your time. We thank the senators for their time, and everyone else who has helped on this. Please carry the message, if you will, that if you wish a pet, the best place to find a healthy pet that will be loving you forever is at a shelter. Thank you so much.